All right. Hey, everyone. This is Erica with ShameOver. I'm back, and today I am so excited for my conversation with Marina Castillo. It is going to be so just refreshing, I can already tell. So please feel free to just introduce yourself, let us know who you are, what you do, and we'll just jump in from there.
Well, thank you. Hi, hello. I'm Marina. I am the co-founder of the Modern Mocktail. We are a design and consultancy agency. We're here to help people who are interested in starting or expanding their non-alc or kava businesses. And really, at the end of the day, the best way to describe what we do, because we're very nerdy, we do a lot of stuff in operations. We help clean up all of the annoying little tech things that get to people. But really, at the end of the day, it's all about what can we do to help you make the biggest impact without burnout and to enjoy your life along the way.
Oh my God, I love that. So, are you working primarily with business owners in that type of sphere that obviously are working, whether it's a bar they're looking to bring in non-alcoholic beverages, or are they strictly non-alcoholic? How does that typically work?
Yeah, so we typically work with founders. Every once in a while, we get like an executive, like a chief operations officer or a chief marketing officer. But for the most part, we hang out in the executive suite and we help people primarily who want to develop non-alc businesses because we just naturally attract people who who are walking in the lifestyle that their business
Mhm.
showcases. So every once in a while, yes, we'll get a bar or restaurant that sells alcohol that's simply looking to expand on their options. And those are usually quick little projects, quick
Okay.
little one-offs. But the majority of our clients are reoccurring people and characters. Yeah, they're all sober entrepreneurs who are just looking to create the resource that they wish they had when they started their sobriety journey.
That is beautiful. I love that. Denver, where I'm at, has we've grown in this space that I mean, so many bars and restaurants now have actual good mocktail menus or whatever they call it. But we have very few, at least that I'm aware of, like standalone spots that are dedicated for that. So whenever I see them or hear about them, I am just so excited. So I love that you're helping people develop that and make it not only approachable and easily accessible, but a fun environment because I feel like that's one thing that I've run into with my own journey and so many of my clients is we've trained ourselves that alcohol, excuse me, alcohol equals fun. And like we don't imagine like going out and hanging out with people without alcohol, which is just bizarre. So to know that there are so many spaces coming available that are dedicated to that is just incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean, man, I went to college in Wisconsin. I
Yeah.
graduated in 2016. So back then, this was like, I mean, everybody's drunk all the time. There's no
Mhm.
like it's such a place that even though I worked at a tea bar, which those didn't even really exist yet in Madison, Wisconsin, you'd be like, "What?"
Yeah.
It was a bubble tea bar that was open late until 12 a.m.
Oh,
And
wow.
even though I had that really cool resource, I still was a hooligan. And I just know that part of it was because it was so early on that we hadn't talked as a society yet about sobriety in a positive light in any way.
Mm.
So that T-bar was mostly just for like, oh, well, date spot or, people who, uh, had like very particular activities that we would post, but point of it was never anti-alcohol. It was more like this is where you go in between to like rehydrate
Mm.
and they had a clean bathroom and then you just go to the bar next door kind of thing.
Yeah.
So point of that is just like I remember living in that whole environment and being like still couldn't imagine fun without alcohol. And now I look back and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, like thank goodness there are more spots because there were I just know that there are so many bad situations we tend to find ourselves in, especially in a college town. I lived right off of the like frat street.
Oh, yeah.
And so, on my walk home, even if I was sober from work, it was midnight, 1 in the morning, you'd see people and you'd question, like, is this
Mhm.
okay? Is this a consensual thing? And yeah, I'm so grateful that now there are so many more options to where now like you're not just like forced into that environment. You can choose it
100%.
if you want it, but you're not forced to.
Yes. Well, and one here, I love that you said you graduated in 2016 because it makes me see like what a baby you are compared to me, which is a great thing. Don't get me wrong on that. But to that point, like I have just realized again through this journey that it is a wonder that every single person that goes to college essentially does not have an issue with alcohol because we are never taught to drink. We are taught to binge drink. And then once we're out of, college, university, whatever, you go on to normal life where you're working, but you have those habits and you're supposed to just be able to like have a drink or two, like just sometimes like we haven't trained ourselves that. So it's environment and culture, I feel like is everything. So yeah.
Everything. I mean, I this conversation kind of just made me realize there was a quote in Mean Girls that came into my head. She's like, "You're a drug pusher, Katie. You're a drug pusher." Anyway, I was an alcohol pusher. Like
Mhm.
after college, I my professional job as an entertainer, in order to get paid, in order for the bar that we're performing at to get paid, in order for all the performers to get, artists that you want, that
Mhm.
you know that they deserve it, right? But how do they get paid? No one ever asks that question. Well,
Yeah.
the answer is alcohol sales. The answer is not in the tickets. The tickets
Yeah.
actually barely cover anything. It's the bar sales. So in order for a career to blossom, you got to get people inebriated. And so point of that is there's a lot of psychological design
Mhm.
in your nightlife experiences, even beyond college, that are to get you to buy more drinks. Even comedians, even dancers, we're all told, oh, take a shot on stage, tell everybody to go get a shot at the bar. We'll all together come together and take this as like a whole ritual.
Sure.
And we're all told to literally orchestrate and push this on you. So it's beyond like just there's not spaces. It's we're you people like me were paid to push this in your face, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, I appreciate that because I was definitely the kind who never went to those things, only having the, one or two drink minimum that they had. So, that was self encouraged as well. But I actually heard, or it was some sort of research, something, I don't know, that I had seen earlier this year that actually talking about environments and how it's designed to make you drink more. Not only is that why so many places like the lighting is beautiful, focus on the alcohol, and they're showing, how pretty these bottles look. But at fancy restaurants, you'll always notice really big wine glasses. And psychologically, they have done across the board that if you're spending money on wine and they give you a small, like, what they do in Europe, the really small, normal sized glasses, or the big glass, even though they're filling the same amount in both, you are going to order so much more just with the big glass.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I'm just like, it's fascinating, like how it is all designed, money being the number one driver, but the more that we drink, the more everyone gets paid. And the more you drink, the more you're going to drink.
Mm. It's wild. I mean, even think about New Orleans. Like they have, okay, well, it's New Orleans. You're supposed to party there, right? That's the whole shtick. But you go down, oh my God, why am I blanking on the name of the
Bourbon
main street?
Street.
Bourbon Street. Thank you. Wow. When you go down Bourbon Street, you get all, you get the collectible mugs that are like so specialty designed that you can only get them here. And the only way you can't just buy those, by the way. You can't just buy them empty. Like you
Yeah.
have to buy a drink to get them.
So it sounds like that's a perfect place to set up some kind of place that you would be able to help with
Oh
then, where so
yeah.
people have the opportunity to get those souvenirs without it having to be alcohol based.
Oh man, if someone did that, you would win a Nobel Peace Prize, I'm
Oh my
sure.
God.
Because for real, I already know there's already a market called Cali Sober Market that started, not on that street, but
Okay.
in the general area. And
Okay.
she's a bottle shop, so it's not a bar, but she's doing her name is Monica, the owner, and she does the good fight. She is constantly, in every hearing that she can be to ensure that all of these other alternatives remain available.
Yes.
And I know that she would love to have some help on those front lines, and there's plenty of market space. Her business is busy, so I know that market space is good for anybody who's interested.
So speaking of which, how did you get to where you are and doing what you're doing?
Wow, I don't even ever really know where to start this story because if anybody out there is listening who is multi-passionate, I know you're already going to feel me here. I started life thinking I was going to run away with the circus, and I did. I did do the thing. I learned some cool circus skills. I'm an aerialist. I'm a dancer of 20 years, more than that at this point. Goodness, I haven't done the math in a while. It's almost more than that. But anyway, so I started right after college or in college, I was studying math because I don't know why. I really don't. There's no job out there called mathematician. I didn't know that ahead of time either. I was just like, I'm just trying to figure out how life works. I figure this applies to everything. Side note, it does. That was a great choice. But the whole time my heart was in the circus, right? So
Mhm.
I'm a mathematician by day working at a lab to make my degree feel like it was worth it and to pay it off. And then at nighttime I'm performing. I end up getting and I was teaching at a pole studio the whole time as well, teaching other
Mhm.
women how to pole dance, burlesque, all the fun, sexy things that
Yes.
kind of get them out of their shells and feeling good and confident in their bodies. And after I was doing that for a while, I realized because I was like, okay, well, on one hand, I have all these students who are becoming healthier, glowier versions of
Mhm.
themselves. And then some of them then want to become performers. So then they enter my performance school. Then they would come to my shows that I would produce, and then they would make their debuts. Some went
Mhm.
on to have wonderful careers, and others, it was just a little hobby they did every once in a while. Well, I then, you're like, oh, healthy, you do this thing, you find this new passion, and then now they're drinking again. Or now you start to see, even as a performer yourself, what you're doing to the audience. And if the whole
Mhm.
point was, as a performer, is to bring them, it's not escapism, it is, but it isn't, right? The
Sure.
escapism aspect of watching some awesome show, right?
Yeah, you're
But
entertained. Yeah.
yeah. And I always told a story. I never played a character. I never played a villain. I was always, my stage name was Marina Mars. So it was always me just trying to, my shtick was that I'd hand out love letters that were just random, that were just nice things. And I'd find the saddest looking person in the room and I'd hand it to them. And I realized how contradictory everything that I was doing was after a while because I was like, but I'm poisoning you. Because I had gotten
Mhm.
sober, side note, in 2019, just because I wanted to be a better athlete and a better dancer. Over time, it had more like profound effects.
Sure.
But all of that being said, pandemic hits 2020, freshly sober, career of like my whole career that I spent my whole life dreaming about.
Yeah.
I decided to retire at 27 because I was just like, okay, well, until I can figure out how to perform and not feel horrible about it, about being a drug pusher, an alcohol pusher, I needed to figure out a better way. So at the time I was living in Vegas, like I was performing with, or I was
Oh,
producing
wow.
shows with Cirque du Soleil. I was doing a lot of different cool things, and I gave it all up because I was not in alignment with who I wanted to be. So I moved to Arizona and found a kava bar and started working there and became general manager, then became a chief operations officer and watched it grow. Like my husband and I, that's where I met my husband. And we worked together to turn that little mom and pop shop into an incredible institution that increased sales by 26% month over month
Oh,
by
wow.
all the way up through until the moment we left. And then at that point, we were like, we hit a glass ceiling for how much we can do. This really is the answer because we were hosting like sober raves, like sober performances, like all the cool things. So, but I was managing the process. I wasn't the
Yeah.
performer. And so I was like, hey, this is a reality. Like, let's change the whole world. So my is the best. And he just is just like, let's do all of the things. Your idea, let's just do it. Let's just go. And so we jumped off a cliff and right after Christmas, so it was literally January of last year, we were like, let's go ahead and see if we can help as many businesses as possible because that's how we make the biggest impact.
Mhm.
Because one business takes care of hundreds or thousands of people within their community.
Exactly.
So if we can help hundreds or thousands of business owners, that's millions of sober people now that even though they'll never know my face, they'll never know my name because we are behind the scenes. These
Mhm.
businesses that we work with, we don't take part ownership like John Taffer does. If anybody watches Bar Rescue, we're just, we come in, we help you, we teach you how to fish your own fish, and then that's it. Like, and then
Yeah.
you do your thing, and we go help other people do the same because there's no such thing as competition here. So point of
Yeah.
that whole story is, I'm sorry, like that was just a really random journey of
No,
how
this
I
is
got here.
beautiful.
But like I didn't wake up one day thinking that this is where we were going to be. It was just like I've been coaching and teaching and tutoring since I was 16. I've been on camera doing all these things for like all of these were just all skills that seemed random at the time, but then
Mm,
once you become very like not just sober from alcohol, but like sober in your life and your mind, and you really start to see the bigger picture for what it is and your
yes.
purpose, and you want to tie it all together, then it became clear. And that's how we're here, and we're having a lovely conversation today.
I love that. I feel like most of my podcast interviews, there's something that happens where I get the chills, and now it's just that moment, like
Uh,
just so good. So I know that you said that you got sober in 2019, and
mm-hmm,
it sounds like it wasn't necessarily anything that was like a big issue for you. It was more just health specific. You really wanted to focus on being able to compete, for lack of a better word,
mm-hmm.
and you're dancing and entertaining, I guess. Is that kind of correct what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. And I want to mention that I quit alcohol and cigarettes at the same time. Cigarettes was
Ooh,
infinitely more difficult for me. That
okay.
monster was to this day, if I smell the right smell, I'm like, where are you, little guy? Stay away. But yeah.
That is so funny you say that. My dad, when my mom was pregnant with me, she said, like, you have to stop smoking by the time the baby's here. That's just, it's non-negotiable. And he still, to this day, he's like, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow or I had a week left to live, I would literally spend every second smoking. Like that, for whatever reason, it just, and he hasn't smoked at all, like maybe cigars here and there, but like, yeah, there's just something about it for some people, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
So going back to that time, because in my mind, consumption is consumption. So obviously,
Right.
I help women to drink less or to really understand their relationship with alcohol and themselves, so that they can have a healthier approach, whatever it looks like for them, whether it is just cutting back drastically, or deciding to be sober. But what we work on, I feel like, can be transferred to if it's overconsumption with eating or even cigarettes or social media, and you see a lot of it's called cross addiction, but if someone's working on this one area, it typically goes to another area. So if
Yep.
you're not smokers, for example, I know it's notorious that once people stop smoking, they gain a lot of weight because they're used to doing this. So instead, they're like feeding themselves instead of, the cigarette. So if you can remember back to that time, was there anything that really helped you overcome those like really hard moments or days or anything along those lines to get you to a place to where you felt much more at peace?
Yeah, I know that breath work
Ooh.
for the cigarette specifically was extremely important because you don't realize it, but like, okay, I'm not trying to glamorize this in any way, shape, or form, but when you are a cigarette smoker, you, well, at least how, the way I was, because I always worked in the, service entertainment industry. So a smoke break meant like that's the only way you get a break. If you're not a
Yep.
smoker, you don't get a break. So what it taught you was how to take a moment for yourself and and so you think that that's a healthy thing because you're like, oh,
Mhm.
well, this is my mental health. And so point of that story is I could not have done that without breath work for sure. That is it was hard at first. I felt silly at first doing it. I was like, I don't like hearing myself breathe. But
Yeah.
then I was like, why don't I like to hear myself breathe? And then it opened up a bunch of other things. But number one, that. Number two, there are so many fun little replacement things out there. Gum didn't
Mm,
work for me, patches didn't work for me, and I'll talk more about alcohol in a sec too, but this was what I struggled with the most. So it was like I was trying to find what were my alternatives, and it turns out there were, and I really didn't want to vape because that wasn't interesting
mm.
to me at all. Like I
So
really just
glad.
wanted, yeah, I just wanted to be done with the habit. I didn't want to be I didn't want my mood to be dictated by whether or not I didn't have, like, whether I had my
Mm,
vice on me or not. So I was like, the
exactly.
whole point of the cigarette was I liked the smoke and the ritual of it. I don't care about the nicotine as much. So, which is not everybody's case. So once I started to really realize, okay, it's not about the drug, it's about the ritual and that's what helped me realize, oh, that's what made it so easy for me to quit alcohol. Because I was like, oh, I actually really get this. I realized, yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin, so don't get me wrong, love craft beer. Thank goodness there's non-alc craft beer out there because I love it.
Hmm.
But what it taught me was like, oh, if the ritual is what I like, and the only reason I'm really enjoying the alcohol besides good tasting beer is because it makes my cigarettes better, like the experience, it makes
Oh,
that more
wow. Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah.
So I was like, okay, so let's break this down again. So I just kept going each layer. And I was like, okay, well, replacement, replacement. So I got my breath work. And then at night, how do I have fun? Like, what do I drink? Well, thank goodness. This is a weird silver lining. Thank goodness for the shutdowns because I was not
Hmm.
tempted in Vegas, where I was living at the time, to hit all of these other vices. So, but I had a friend from Florida who had visited, and she introduced me to kava and kratom. Well, kratom specifically, which is
Okay.
typically sold at kava shops. And then once I moved to Arizona, I found my first kava bar, and it instantly clicked because it's not like I like always need something to feel, but when I was going for alcohol, other than to make the cigarettes good, it was also like an anxiety issue for sure, based around a panic disorder that I developed as a kid, not from performing. Performing is just as like going to the grocery store is just as difficult as getting on stage for me. Both are
Yeah,
equally anxiety ridden for different
sure.
reasons, but like my body would react. And so once I realized, oh, I was numbing myself to
Mhm.
not seem some type of way in public or whatever, and then I found kava, I'm like, well, boom. Problem solved there. So now I don't have a single craving. I don't want to go back. If I see a gross thing on TV that's over glamorizing it too much, my stomach literally will be like, "Ugh." Like I'm like, "Ugh," like I'm not into it.
Yeah.
So replacement therapy starting at the very beginning with that breath work. And I will say I did do um God, what is it called? Like group, like I did a group therapy too.
Okay.
I went to like group sessions and I was by far the youngest person in the room and everyone else was actively dying of lung cancer. So that did it. That for sure did it.
Like the
Yeah.
commercials where they're like, this is what will happen to you, even though, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they were real and they were like these people were smoking packs a day. So I was like, "Oh wow, I got here in a good time."
Yeah.
So that
Oh
helps.
man. Well, I am so glad you brought up the kava and kratom because I do want to jump into that in a second. But back to the smoking for a sec. I have actually brought up smoking in my program because I'm like, I'm in no way encouraging people to smoke at all. Like we all know it's terrible for you, just like people are starting to learn that alcohol is as well. But smokers get it right by taking breaks. And that is one thing, just like you said, like you don't get a break unless it's a smoking break. Like you can't just take a break, which definitely should not be the case. But I know that that is in so many professions. But taking that break is huge. And like you said, you're also connecting with your breath, even if you're not seeing it that way. But you were smart enough to realize that it was the ritual that you really liked and that that was the part that you couldn't lose. Because I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of people don't really understand that connection, even though realizing it is the ritual. And I'm just, your awareness there is amazing. And I've seen people really struggle with, especially white knuckling as they're, trying to do booze free days or whatever that might look like. And so often it's because they're not finding alternatives. And so they're sitting there, it's 5 o'clock when they normally drink, and they're just like, like they don't know what to do. I'm like, take a break, still do something for yourself, because especially as women and so many moms that I work with, like that drink is the first time that they've made time for themselves all day. And
Right.
it's like, if you aren't drinking and you're not doing something during that time, like the ritual is just gone, you once again are not taking any time for yourself. So you're so stressed, you're so burnt out, you're moody, you're all the things. Like it makes total sense.
Hmm. It does. And I know, a real little personal story quick. Because of all the stress I had in life and all the things, I had had a miscarriage a couple years ago, and that was a big wake up call for me to, I was already sober, but I wasn't practicing great anti-burnout
Mhm.
practices in business. And that's what really inspired that portion of our business as well. And so we were so excited because then we'd gotten pregnant earlier this year, and we're like, oh, it worked. But then we had another miscarriage. And I was like, wow, like we did everything right though. I'm very healthy. We got
Mhm.
all the things. So my blood tests were great. What's up? And it really just came down to cortisol and stress, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at people who like, you're like, man, that cousin Tabitha over there, she gets pregnant every other year and she's drinking and smoking down, tubing down the river, waterfalls. How's she alive? Because she's not stressed out. Okay. That's why she's pregnant. That's why she's having a good time.
Yeah,
And so, I know I always tiptoe when I say this. I'm not saying that, oh, alcohol is better than just being stressed out and sober. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is you can't fool yourself into thinking that you're self-caring if you didn't find that replacement.
exactly. Oh my God, that was so perfectly said. Yes. And that's, again, I know my area is focusing more on drinking less and just having that healthy relationship. But to that exact point, that's what I've seen a lot, because I'm to the point where I very seldomly drink, mainly because my rule is don't drink for negative emotions. And just having two very young kids at home, there's a lot of negative emotions constantly going on. So it keeps me from drinking, which is great. But I can definitely see, as long as it's not a reliance, it can help in a sense. In my mind, I am not a doctor or anything along those lines, but I think for some people it can actually help with the mental health. Again, having a very moderate approach as opposed to, completely being done with it, or being, obviously the complete opposite side of that, if you're not dealing with any of the emotional stuff and the stuff that's below what the actual drinking is.
Absolutely, because when I think back, like there were some drinks I had, like I know I could absolutely be a moderate drinker if I wanted to be. Like I didn't have an addictive personality for alcohol specifically. Like it was more so like the situations that I would choose it. So point of this story is I just remember very fondly, I have a very good friend who I would, back in the day when I was still drinking, I would occasionally go to after our little pole sesh. So we'd work out really hard for like 3 hours. And then we would meet up after that at like a very classy bar that had really delicious, like nutritious bites and like,
Okay.
organic farm table, whatever. And then you have
Yeah.
these really delicious, like, delicious cocktails with high, like top shelf ingredients, all the things. And we would never overdo it. We would just have one really celebratory, like
Mhm.
this drink marked the occasion of we finally got that move we've been working on for 6 months, or we finally finished that routine. Like, let's mark this as a ritual, as a celebration. I never felt any negativity. That was never
Yeah.
why I quit, right? Like at this point, it's just literally about I live in the desert and you get hungover within an hour instead of overnight. So like I'm
uh,
just not cool to hang. Like I just can't
mhm.
in that way. But mentally, like I always appreciated that. And that's why I love non-alc cocktails so much because I can still, have that moment and have that ritual once again. But then I don't have to deal with my hangover.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Which, I mean, as you get older, it just hits you harder and harder
Harder
now.
and harder.
And unfortunately, when you drink less and less, it hits you harder and harder as well. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot behind it, but it kind of makes it more enjoyable and a lot easier to say no when you know that, like, yeah, that one glass of wine is actually going to impact how I sleep. Where before, no, it would have taken several to, have a noticeable impact on my sleep. So based on just what you've experienced recently, I'm so sorry for those losses. I cannot fathom that. What have you done to not only deal with those emotions or heal during that time, but work on the cortisol, since I know that that's what you said was really a determining factor?
Yeah, so a couple exciting things because again, I feel like sobriety for me started as because mine is not some crazy path, but it's more so of becoming sober to what I was putting in my body. So that
Mm,
definition changes over time. What other
sure.
toxins, what else am I becoming sober too? And what I realized was, of course, we can always drink more water. We can always, I increased the importance of yoga in my life and making sure that no matter what, like I don't care hell or high water, I'm doing an hour every morning as the first thing I do when I wake up. And I'm not going to have anything until I'm done with that. Then after that, um, super important, I want to say too, I was doing too much caffeine because when you start a business, right, you're like, I need energy. What can I do? I have to push through. And I will say I love white kratom for helping, but also I never want to do the same thing too much because, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to ever be dependent on any one thing. I want to be able to switch
100%.
out. I don't want my mood dictated on some chemical bond that's happening in my
Yes.
body. So, what my husband and I recently just found, and I'm telling you, like, this has made the biggest difference already, ketones. So, there are little ketone shots that don't have
Okay.
caffeine in them. And we naturally make ketones in our body, but we don't naturally
Yeah.
make caffeine, right? So, what I found was my energy levels were so off. I'd be tired halfway through the day and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night. So that
Yeah.
alone was killing my cortisol. Even though I'd done everything, my husband is so wonderful and patient. He helped me heal a lot of my like childhood traumas and all we already went through all that. That's
Yeah.
all done. I'm good.
Hmm.
I'm fine. Like that's not the issue. The issue is literally why can't I get sleep? Like I need sleep. Like my body is not calibrated to where my
Yes.
mind is. And but again, I'd already done all my therapy. I had done all my work. Like I'm good. Like I'm you can't break me. I'm a strong woman right now. Like I'm in a good place. But the sleep can break me. So the ketones were a huge
100%.
thing that helped. And it instantly got rid of my inflammation, which was the number one sign to me that the cortisol was complete. So to the point where you can look at photos of me from literally just a week ago to today, all even, and eat like I'm telling you that like under my jaw I can see it everywhere where all of the
Really?
inflammation I'm not saying I'm burning all this fat. I'm
Yeah,
saying the
yeah.
inflammation.
100%.
My ankles as a dancer, I've been so upset for the last year because my ankles have looked different. And I'm like,
Mm.
is this just when you cross 30 your ankles just look different? Like and then I realized that was the inflammation. And it is this morning was the first morning I actually woke up where I'm like, my ankles look like I'm 26 right now. Like this is crazy. Like I have not seen this in a while. So
Oh,
ketones were
wow.
huge. So point of that is, again, not a doctor, not saying that is the cure, but
Sure.
that is something that is natural in the body. So we were just trying to find more things that balance what our body already makes. So
Hmm.
recalibrating the body instead of always adding to it, assuming that it's not smart enough to figure itself out, right? You just need to give it some space.
Yes. So, and you said the ones you found are in little shots?
Yeah, they're in little shots. We get them at Sprouts, but you can get them
Oh,
at like
wow.
yeah, you can get them at like the Vitamin Shop, any of those kind of like wellness kind of places or
Oh, good
like
to know.
supplements.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the one we use and we're not paid by them or anything. Like we just found them. And they're called Ketone IQ. But yeah,
Okay.
big factor to making us feel so great lately.
No, I mean, your energy, not that we haven't, we've not chatted a ton until today, but your energy, I can just tell is like fantastic. So you can at least tell you're feeling good.
Yeah,
Um,
and no coffee yet today. I haven't had any other caffeine yet. It's crazy.
so on the coffee thing, I'm sharing this because I had been told it years ago and I was just like, yeah, screw that. Like never gonna try that because coffee is like kind of my happy place. And then I wasn't able to have coffee off and on for a while. But it was to the point to where a girlfriend had said that her brother in his school learned that we shouldn't have coffee until like 11 a.m. or something. But really, what I
Hmm.
learned was at least an hour, 1 to 2 hours after you wake, if you can at least wait that much time, it's going to be so much more effective. So I have been doing that consistently for a couple months now, and it has been a game changer. Like I just don't have the constant dips. Or, before I could easily drink like 5 cups of coffee a day, mainly just because I love it. It wasn't like I needed it, but I think my body was kind of like craving that stability. But
Right.
now, oh my God. So, one thing I would love for people to take away, I know it's going to be hard, but try even just a couple weeks of not drinking coffee until at least 1 hour minimum after you wake up. And I guarantee you'll notice a difference. So,
Yes. Oh, I love that
um,
point. It's a good one. And you can always just have decaf if you're like, I need the ritual,
yeah,
right?
totally.
That's what I do.
Well, okay, good to know. I don't even know if I've ever had decaf,
Oh, I
but
love decaf coffee. It's a game changer because then you get to just enjoy it without being like, oh, how do I
okay.
sleep tonight?
Yeah, and people say that, but I've heard it's like just some families it will give them headaches or like stomach aches. I'm like, I don't even want to try that, but maybe I will. So, yes.
Ooh, I will say low quality coffee. So a lot of brands
Okay.
poo-poo all over decaf coffee. Just like
Yeah.
it's kind of like how you can't expect Captain Morgan to make a high quality non-alc rum spirit because they don't, right? You would expect
100%. Yeah.
an artisanal one to do it, right? Most coffee companies, they're all coffee connoisseurs, so they like poo-poo on the decaf. So they
Hmm.
make terrible decaf. But if you, so you definitely have to find good quality because I've had some give me headaches, and that's just
Okay.
because of the way they process the beans.
Makes sense. And I mean, great comparison there. I want to be very respectful of your time, but I do want you to teach us a little bit more about kava and what was the other one?
Kratom.
Okay, I don't think I've ever heard of kratom until you. So, what is kratom? And let's dig into kava too while we have you.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to start with kava because it's the easiest way to go into kratom. So kava is the root of a very special pepper plant that's found in the Polynesian islands. And the root of this very special plant gets ground into a little fine powder. It gets turned into a tea. This is how it's traditionally consumed. However, and you can consume it that way if you go to kava bars. However, the majority of kava on the market that you know a plain Jane or Joe Schmo would find is typically in like Kava Haven, Kava Hall, Lalo. All of these brands are non-alc spirits or ready to drink cans.
Okay.
So this substance, the kava, what it does is, again, it's just a tea. It's a special tea that relaxes you. So the first thing you feel, because it's the root of a very special pepper plant, so it has capsaicin in it, not spicy, but it has the tingling. So imagine, again, spice without making you cry, just the fun little
Hmm.
tingles on your tongue. So that's what you feel in your first 30 seconds.
Okay.
Then, as it starts to hit your stomach over the next anywhere from really depends on who you are, what you've eaten, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes, you really start to feel calm. Not the kind of calm that makes you fall asleep, not
Hmm.
the kind of like chill that makes you send weird text messages or say things that are out of character. It doesn't impair your motor function. You can still drive, but you have this kind of sense of openness. So your heart feels open. So what I mean by this is this. If you go into a kava bar, this like is what blew my freaking mind and like changed my life. And this was during the pandemic, right? So it was like, well, it was like 2021. Things were starting to open up, but things were like all weird still.
Yeah.
And so during that time, people when they'd talk politically, I mean, politics are always heated, but especially during that moment when people are
Hmm.
dealing with the masks and physical things, like it was, it was the most heated I feel like I'd felt in my
100%.
life.
So polarizing.
But yet, going into that bar, there were people who were in all different belief systems, and they were just having a conversation with like no raised blood pressure. And then random people would join in from other parts of the bar, and everyone was like, "Oh,
What?
wow, interesting point, sir." And by the way, we're not all like like it was all different
Yeah.
ages, backgrounds. Some people were college kids, some people were entrepreneurs stopping through, some were plumbers, electricians. Like I'm telling you, it was everybody. And it was
Wow.
the only place in my whole life. Like I went to university expecting that experience because that's
Not
what
at
they
all.
tell you in the movies,
Mm-mm.
but that's not what I got. And so then, this was the first time in my life I'd seen that. So to give you perspective, this is the like in the Fijian Islands, for example, they give kava to people if they're new to the tribe or like they're like a visitor, or let's say two people are fighting. Go drink kava in a hut and don't come out until you've figured out what's going on because it allows you to calm down. And again, just remain very attentive. So like I feel very comfortable um, doing things that I would never have done with
Mhm.
alcohol, or even cannabis with
Yeah.
kava because you're extremely clear of
You're
mind in that
exactly.
way. Now, I will mention there are some strains that are a little bit more on that physically calming side. So for people who have like a tough time sleeping or getting their
Hmm.
bodies, like if they're restless, like I'm not like officially diagnosed. I don't even think it's like a real thing, but like that whole like restless leg syndrome back like 20 years ago, they had all those commercials and now you never hear of it. But anyway, like I'm always a very twitchy person. I just always have been. And so sometimes that keeps me up. Kava takes care of it. So there's that. And I'll leave it at that and then talk about kratom and then I'll kind of bridge them back together real quick
Sure.
because they're often sold in similar environments if you're in kava
Okay.
bars. So kratom, on the other hand, is actually a tropical evergreen tree leaf. So imagine a pine tree,
Hmm.
but in a tropics area, right? So
Okay.
this is like imagine like Indonesia, right? And so there are three different types of strains of kratom. There's red, there's green, and white. White is like incredibly energizing, like pre-workout. Like that's what I use instead
Hmm.
of caffeine, coffee kind of stuff. No
Okay.
crash. It is a cousin of the coffee plant, but it's not coffee in there. That is the like stimulating feeling. The red on the other side of the spectrum, however, is I have to be very specific on how I say this for the FDA. It's very, if you have feelings of discomfort, it soothes. So there are many people who were, and this is where kava is not a very like kava is very straightforward. People love kava. Public perception of kava is pretty good. Side note: the only negative point is that there was a bad study done saying that it has liver toxicity issues, but
Hmm.
it was totally debunked, and
Okay.
so that's not. It actually does not. All it's
Yeah, I
just
hadn't heard that one yet.
yeah, the only thing about that is it's just like coffee. It's just like anything else. Like if you only drink kava and you don't drink any water, yeah, you're putting some stress on your liver, but there's no negative um to that. There's a whole study coming out to debunk that. So, but on the other hand, kratom. So
Okay.
kratom is one of those things where it has been a blessing and it helps so many people because again, you have those three different strains. You can help a variety of different people for a variety of different reasons. But let's talk about the red strain for a second because people who are coming out of the opioid
Mm.
um whole issue, right? Like whether whether you have been someone who has dealt with any sort of addiction issue from more of a street side or from a pharmaceutical side, people
Mhm.
who are just, their prescription ran out and they're still dealing with issues and the doctor's not getting to the root cause of it. And so what do you do, right? And in this case, so many, like I'm talking millions of people. There are so many testimonials of people who around the country, they don't ever want to be on any sort of painkiller or they
Yeah.
don't want to have a shoulder surgery and then accidentally maybe have like get an
Get
oxy
addicted. Yeah.
addiction. Like,
Yeah.
so they don't want to even deal with that. I know I definitely don't. So, kratom is this great alternate that helps people in a lot of these situations. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. This is just testimonials that you can read all over the internet. And I'm happy to continue to share them.
Yeah.
But I know that this plant specifically, when it's typically found and consumed, usually it's either in tea or extract form. Extract is usually if you find it in like the cans. They're
Okay.
starting to sell them at places all over, but typically if you are at like a kava bar, you're going to get it in like a tea form. And I want to mention that this is again, this is just it's a lovely nature derived product. There's nothing to it other than it is just a tea. There's no process that makes it. So I mention this because alcohol can be made from all these different things. It's a processing thing that occurs. So it
Mhm.
is a metabolic, like a chemistry thing that's happening. Here, this
Yes.
is literally just like it's tea. It's just a fun tea that you can turn into so many different things. So no matter what your like palate is, they're both
Sure.
like blank canvases in that way. So don't even worry about taste. You can make it whatever you want. But there, that's the best gist I can give for kava and kratom for you.
That is amazing. So, are those kind of two of the main things that you really focus on, or are you kind of about all like the whole non-alcoholic space when it comes to, I call them bee-free, but booze-free beverages?
Yeah, so we are holistic at our approach. Our entire toolkit has hundreds of ingredients in it. We are herbalists, so we
Mhm.
are constantly learning more about every ingredient. So I think kava and kratom is just as interesting as ashwagandha, or anything else, tulsi, you name it. So we have a whole arsenal, but those are the two that we're loudest about. And I'm
Okay.
particularly loudest about kava, just because I've watched so many lives change. Personally, I've served thousands of people kava myself, and I've seen people go from addicted or freshly out of rehab and scared to a very confident new person. And not even new, it's just the onion layers have revealed the
Exactly.
true nature of these people. And it's happened within my own family. My
Oh,
husband and my father-in-law, yeah, they both dealt with some pretty hard addiction issues throughout the years, and kava has kept both of them not only in a sober way, but they don't even have like you wouldn't even like you're never like, oh, are they gonna relapse? Like that's
yeah.
not even a thought, like because this is there. So point of this is the reason we love kava and kratom so much, and sorry, the bridge between them is that when you in general, a rule of herbalism is that if you just take one herb for one reason,
Hmm.
yeah, you can get a balancing effect. That's the way I have to say it for the FDA, right? Because I'm not a doctor. Um, but the moment you start to combine multiple herbs together, they dance basically. And so what's happening on a like biological level here is that they um they increase the speed of like metabolic action together. So if you have two different compounds at the same time, if I was to take one drink that just had caffeine and then I took one drink that just had kava after, I'm going to feel the roller coaster, my pits are going to get sweaty, and then I'll calm down. So I will have still dealt with the ouchy, icky feeling, right? But
Yep.
if I put kava and caffeine together, not only does the kava kind of cover the negative effects of caffeine, so side note, put kava in your coffee and it's amazing. But also, um, once you have that combined nature, it allows that energy to go even higher. So you're not distracted, you're not looking for your next fix, right? So because of that double action power, if I was to have a kava kratom drink together in the beginning of the day to start, maybe a creative project or something, then
Hmm.
I'm going to be so in it and I'm not even aware of any, like, I don't need anything else. I have my water next to me. But
Hmm.
anytime you combine botanicals, they become stronger together. So, point of that story is, yeah, it's super fun to have some of, we could probably have a whole episode on herbalism here, but like you can have so much fun. There's so many different like colors and feelings and
Yeah.
and tools out there besides just alcohol, right? Like there are all these other super fun herbs that look, it may seem witchy or it may seem like, oh, grandma's kitchen herb tonic, what's that? But once you start playing in the dirt yourself and you start to play with these things and see how they make you feel, and you're like, dang, like real ginger snaps. Like, oh my gosh, like like that actually feels a certain way, especially when I
Yeah.
mix it with turmeric. If you mix turmeric, ginger, and kava together, it literally feels like light is like going through your veins. It warms you up and calms you down.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm talking about things that you can find in the spice aisle, you guys. So this isn't like you'd be surprised of the cool things you can make out there.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am so into all of this. personally only had Kava Haven, which I absolutely love.
Oh,
And
love
I,
them.
yeah, I know Soberish Mom, our friend Kate, I think you're a friend with her as well.
Aw.
She sells them out every like anytime she does anything about them. But I had seen her recently, like semi-recently, do a post about the effects of kava, and the more you use it, the more you feel from it.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yep.
was one thing that was fascinating because it's the adverse effect from alcohol that the more you use, the more you have to use to get the same feeling. And this is the complete opposite. So it's like if you want something that is going to feel good, do good for you, especially so many people that I work with, it's like you need something to calm you down, to quiet the noise, to just help you like take a full exhale, for the day. Sounds like these are two great options.
Absolutely. And I can personally attest to that as well. When I first started drinking kava, I'd have like 3 servings in a day, like in a couple hours. Nowadays, I can have kava once a week, and I don't actually suffer from any of my like panic disorder symptoms that I used to. Everything's chill. Like I'm so chill now. Like life is good. I'm wearing a flower in my hair and I live in the desert. I don't know. Like if you want to live like, and if I was a dad, I'd be wearing a Hawaiian shirt right now. So if that's the vibe you want, I'm telling you, like this is what kava does to you. I'm not saying you
Oh
have
my
to
God,
like
I love it.
flowers, but it chills you out. Like no matter, you could be the most high-strung person, but if you want to like not get heart attacks, right, and you want to like live a good life and be present, kava is a great tool for
Yes.
it.
Oh my God, that is so beautiful. Well, how can people find you? What, if there's anything we didn't cover that you wanted to say, please feel free to share. But obviously, I want people to be able to find you and learn all about how they can work with you and all your great advice outside of what you've already shared here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Mocktails with Marina. So that's my @ on Instagram. Of course, you can also go to marinamars.com and you'll see all of the things there. It's just the whole umbrella of not only what we do with non-alc, but you can also see all of our fun background with dance and all the other fun things. And I want to mention, even though, I mentioned that I am here for business owners and I work with founders and executive level operators. We do also have some resources for people who are simply just curious about the industry and want to learn more.
Mhm.
So on our website, if you, marinamars.com/modern mocktail, there's a little, you hover over our little menu and then it'll say, hey, click here, start here for guides and templates. We have a lot of free material in there, including functional mixology guides. So it has all of our favorite products, including links so you can order them and have them shipped directly to your house if you want to
Beautiful.
give them a try. So we have something for everyone. That's where you can come find me.
Awesome. I'm definitely gonna link to that in the show notes because just for myself, I'm like, where could I start buying all this stuff from? So awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for all that you're doing to, in my mind, make this world better, not only now, but for generations to come, because I really believe that when we figure our shit out with alcohol, the world's going to be a better place. So thank you for what you're doing and for being here and sharing this hour with me. And just so grateful for you.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here and for everyone listening, all of your time as well. It means the world to me.
Oh, beautiful. Well, we'll see you soon. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.